Hi everybody, welcome along to another episode. Bit of a different one for you today in the studio. Today I've got a very iconic piece of work to restore, a bit different from my normal over, if that's the right word, oeuvre. Here we have this fabulous portrait. Well, here he is, Muhammad Ali. There you go, you can see him there. This is part of a large sign that was outside Mothside Boxing Club for many years. This is just one half of it. So I've been tasked with the cleaning and restoring this to get it back up on the outside of the building. So there's plenty to do on this one, yeah, let's get started.
So this is a quick video taken after it was just carried up 4 flights of stairs. You can see the condition that it's in. Obviously it's too big for the lift, so yeah, it was carried up the stairs. And I tend to get a little bit excited when there is large scale work in the studio. So this painting, this sign, has been on the side of a building since around 1981. So I'd say that was 24 years ago, but that's the way my brain works these days. It's closer to 43 years on the wall outside the building. For the last few years it's been kept in a cellar, and that's where that mould has come, and possibly some of these stains that have appeared on the painting. You can see the L.S logo on Muhammad Ali shorts there. There's holes where it was attached to the building. Again, more mould growth, and then that framework around the outside looks like a banister, or an old banister or similar. Moulding was attached to give it some kind of frame. But it all needs cleaning, it all needs addressing really. So my first job is to brush off the debris that has accumulated since it's been in storage. So I'm just going to gently brush that off. There's plaster chunks, there's bits of old varnish off the banister frame. So I'm just going to clear as much of that off as I can. And then the first thing I'll be doing is my test to see that it will clean and what differences we can expect. Yeah, loads of debris, all sorts of stuff on this. It looks better just for a brush.
Hi everyone, just a very quick message to say thank you to all my patrons for supporting the channel. We're now at 105. Next giveaway is 150. I've got some more of my limited edition prints that I'm offering up, so when I get to 150 we're going to give one of these away. If you've not checked it out already, please do. There is loads of exclusive content on there, behind the scenes, paintings you won't see on YouTube, and tutorials and loads of stuff. So yeah, thanks to all my patrons. If you've not been over there for as little as $4.50, I think is the basic, you can head over there and support the channel. Right guys, I'll let you get back to it. Thank you.
So with the worst of the debris removed, I come to do my tests now. So with a painting like this, I can't imagine there's a thick varnish layer on there. So I will go straight to one of my solvents that I use when it's just a dirt layer. So you can see straight away that's it's an aqueous solution. It's got a number of chemicals in there, and that lifted the dirt nicely straight away. So I always start with a weak solution, and this next one is a stronger solution, and I'm just seeing if that makes more of a difference to the clean. Again, good results, and you can see the difference straight away. And then this last one is a stronger solution, so you can see straight away that's lifting a lot more dirt. No paint's coming off on there, but it does seem to be cutting through more and getting a brighter, whiter finish, whereas the ones on the right have a yellow tinge to them. So the third cleaning solution is probably the one that I would go with, that seems to be tackling the dirt layer on top and then that yellowed section as well. So here we go. I've got a much larger swab on my stick today, just for the sheer size of this piece, and I'll be tackling it in sections. Again, I'm checking my swab, making sure no paint is moving. and the dirt is just lifting. You can see straight away the difference that this is making. I suppose being out to the elements, this sign will have seen everything from rain and sleet and snow and frost, baking hot summers. So yeah, it's seen all the elements. So this residue that's on there is probably been baked on, or it's the dirt, the road dust that's not managed to get blown off, or has been trapped on there once it's rained. So yeah, and over, like I say, 43 years or 42 years, it's had a life as well. So I'm quite surprised that the paint surface is in good as condition as it is. I know there's those vertical cracks that we can see, but there isn't an awful lot of paint actually flicking or peeling off as well. So yes, well done. Whoever painted it, if Phil did paint this, he did a good job in terms of priming the boards properly to take the paint. So yeah, I'm just doing say 4-inch sections here, so the swab will do about that much before it gets saturated. And with the swab, sometimes if you've got too much solution on there or too much dirt on there, you're just releasing the dirt back onto another section of the painting. So there is a tolerance to how much a swab can hold. So these are about 4-inch square, and that seems to be enough to loosen the debris and dirt, and then carry that in the swab and remove it. So when I've got a job like this on in the studio, a big job, I might have the radio on, I might listen to a couple of podcasts, I might work in silence. It just depends what mood I'm in at the moment. But these are mammoth tasks, and I don't know if I've said this before, but when I started restoring paintings, I just wanted to work on something huge, some large-scale pictures, some fabulous full-length portraits. And during the pandemic, I got about 4 of these in, similar kind of size to this that I'm working on today. And it was so difficult. You had to move the whole studio around, you had to accommodate the painting. It was really difficult to lift on your own and move it around the studio for different processes. And by the end of working on these large 4, I think they were 18th century portraits, my back was killing me, and I was just like, never again. So I joked that I'd drill the door shut of the studio and cut a 3-foot high slit through the door about 2 inches wide, and if a customer's painting didn't fit through this gap, it wasn't allowed in the studio. So you have to be careful for what you wish for sometimes. So usually my first question now when somebody gets in touch with a painting is, how big is it? How big is the painting? But with these ones, once I'd seen the pictures and once I'd learnt a little bit about the history of this sign and what it meant to the community that it was from, I couldn't say no, so I allowed them into the studio. But you'll see during the process there is a lot of work involved in restoring what ineffectively looks like a very simple painting. There's lots of different stages that we're going to have to go through.
Right, so I've just cleaned the bottom half of this now. You can see that I've done, maybe I love doing this, all this section here, all across his shorts, and down here and across. It's looking much better, lots of dirt come off there. So yeah, I'm going to have a quick break now and then carry on shortly. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with how much is coming off there. It is very, very dirty. But yeah, the difference is quite staggering. It's getting there. So yeah, quick break and then I'll come back shortly.
This story starts in the early 1980s when I was just 4 years old. Following riots in Brixton, Toxteth and Handsworth, Manchester became the next site of protest. Urban deprivation saw unemployment in Moss Side reach a staggering 80%, and at the core of this was the Conservative government's unprecedented deindustrialisation, of which working class Britons were the most affected. It was not just mass unemployment, however, that left Moss Side residents waiting for something to happen, but Thatcher's reinforcement of law and order permitted the authorities to respond with open hostility towards dissent. The first major policy adopted by Thatcher was increasing police pay, giving rise to increased numbers of stop and search, which of course disproportionately targeted young black unemployed members of the Moss Side community. This led to escalating racial tensions. On the 8th of July 1981, the torch paper was lit and the local area erupted into violence and 2 days of mass protest. As Moss Side burned during the riots, Phil Martin, a car mechanic and retired professional boxer, was already thinking about how he could restore some pride in the shattered community. Amid the broken glass and rubble, he built a boxing gym, Champ's Camp, above a burnt-out co-op, painted a 20-foot mural of Muhammad Ali on the side and waited for the fighters to come. And come they did, in droves. He did this without any financial or public sector support, apart from help from the co-op, who let him use derelict rooms above their store. Phil was formerly a light heavyweight professional boxer and was the first black person in Britain to become simultaneously a registered professional boxing coach, manager and promoter. Phil had a vision that with so many unemployed young people in and around Moss Side, it would be great to both motivate and mentor them to succeed in life and train some of them to become top-class amateur and professional boxers. By the mid-1980s, the club had its first ABA finalist, and by the end of the 80s, the gym was recognised throughout the country as producing top-class boxers. So hopefully you can see now why this is such an important piece of Manchester's heritage. What Phil Martin did for that area was give young people a purpose and somewhere to go, and ambition, where the country was failing them. The country was saying that you're not worth anything, there's nothing for you, there's nothing for you to do. Whereas Phil said, no, come to the gym, come and work out, and gave a lot of young people some real direction. So for me, again, it's a real honour. So when Moss Side Boxing Club got in touch with me and told me about the project, told me about what they were doing, I was just on board straight away. So for those of you who might have thought, why is he restoring this very amateur painted sign that's battered on old plywood? Hopefully now, from listening to that history, you can see why this is such an important piece and what it symbolises. So I've spent a good few hours there cleaning the years of dirt and grime that have accumulated on the surface. You can see that matte section on his left shoulder are still to tackle. There's stains on there, there's all sorts of residues that need to be removed. I think this has been painted in gloss, or I'm not 100% sure. There's definitely gloss elements in there, but then there's some chalky elements that feel like emulsion, but I do feel like emulsion would have just washed off. So I would love to know what he actually painted this sign or mural in. But again, I treat it like any other painting that comes into my studio. It gets tested. I'm always checking the swab to make sure that I'm only removing the dirt and grime, but you can see straight away there that the colours have come through more vibrant and those stains are removing, which is encouraging. But it is big, it's huge. It takes the full bench up, and while the bench is taken up, there's nothing else getting done in the studio. So I need to crack on with this clean. So alongside cleaning the painting, I also need to tackle this frame that is attached all the way around the outside of the sign. As I alluded to before, to me it looks like some kind of banister, but then I suppose both edges would be moulded. It's certainly a big chunk of timber that has been attached there. It's screwed onto the back of the plywood and nailed. It's coming away in sections. The brief is that this was originally red or stained red, So my plan is to remove all the existing, or what's left of the existing colouring or stain that's on here, and then I'm going to reapply a wood stain and varnish, something exterior that will look after this for years to come. But there is a lot of work, a lot of sanding, and more sanding, and more sanding. Again, just one of those jobs that you just have to kind of knuckle down and get on with. Luckily, this coincided with me starting to drink coffee again, something I'd abstained for quite a few years, and I think this coffee-fueled sanding is what got me through. So, as you can see, this takes up a large section of that bench, and while this is going on, there's not an awful lot that can happen in the studio while this is on. So once it's on the bench, it's on, and I'm just focused on the job at hand.
Okay, so just flipped that over now. You can see it on the bench there. There's quite a few holes in here from where it was fixed to the wall. So I'm just going to go through that now and probably patch these up. So I'm going to just show you what I'm going to have a look at. Just hold on a second. So these here, where it's been fixed in, I had to sand those down a little bit. But this chopping big screw to hacksaw off. And there's a couple of other bits here that need patching. Some nails need tacking back in, securing, and then I think there's some more on the other side here. So I'll address those. So my plan with that is to make some plywood patches, just little plywood patches I'm going to stick on the back, and then flip it back over, and then I can fill from the front and then retouch those in. So let's do that.
So I know this is all looking quite industrial, but I feel like the original paintings on plywood, it's about 5mm thick maybe, so I'm going to do the same with these patches. It's exterior ply, it's going to last the test of time again, and I'm just going to cut a few of different sizes for the various holes that I need to fill. Just give those edges a tidy up before they get attached. I suppose I could have used an epoxy filler from the back and from the front. I just quite like the idea of shoring this up with a definite piece of wood, much like you would do for a painting. You could put a canvas patch on the back. I just felt like I wanted to reinforce some of these sections as well, because it is quite rotten. So by making the patch around the surrounding area as well, it would just reinforce that whole part of the picture. Whereas like a filler, or just a filler on its own, would probably just kind of consolidate that one area. So yeah, using a good solid wood glue here, which will hold these in place. And just gently push those down into place as well. I'm sure there's some woodwork experts out there that'll tell me I should have gone cross grain or with the grain. Again, I'm not too sure. This seemed like a good idea, just to kind of get those to cover those sections up. Again, just removing any loose bits in there. This chopping screw, this was attached to the outside of the banister frame. So that just snapped off. I don't know if that was attaching to the wall or if that was screwing to attach the frame to it. I'm not 100% sure. And now they're dry and secure on the back, I'm going to tackle the holes from the front. So I'm going to just mix up some wood filler, some just normal wood filler that you'd use on any kind of project of this nature, whether it was furniture repair or something that you'd made. So it's a 2-part epoxy, so I just need to add it. It says a pea-sized piece of a pea-sized measure of the hardener. So once that hardener's been mixed in, you should have about 20 minutes or so to kind of work this into the areas that you need to. So I'll probably overfill these holes and then sand them down afterwards. More sanding, I know. So that'll sink in a little bit, and then I'll add some more. Now this was one of the later holes that I came to fill, so you'll see there that that filler is starting to go off now a little bit, and I'm not getting as smooth a finish on there as I did before. You can see how it's crumbling, so I'm going to overfill this one, and then I'll remedy that when I sand it down later. Maybe I should have used half a pea, or maybe my pea-sized element was a large pea. Maybe it was a marrow fat pea rather than a petit pois. Either way, this was starting to go off. So to let those dry now, and then once it's dry it turns a lighter colour, so I'm just going to use various different sandpaper grits now just to take that down and smooth that in. Just using very small pieces here, trying not to kind of take off any of that paint. Some paint loss is inevitable, but I'll be able to put that back in when we do the retouching. Nice and smooth. So cleaned, sanded the worst elements of that framing edge, and now he is coming off the bench. You can see all the dirt and residue that's on there as well. That's going to annoy me. I'm going to have to clean that up. But it is a heavy thing. I'm trying to slide that into place, and then I've got these pipes that run across the studio, and I've got it kind of wedged between those two, and I ended up, I don't know whether I show it or not, but I ended up tying that to secure it so it doesn't slide down. But yeah, a messy bench does annoy me, so I'm going to give that a little bit of a clean down now before I start the next phase. So some of you eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed that the studio looks a little bit different. So this was filmed last year. I've just never got around to editing it. So this is before the higher benches that I built, and that back bench there, I think that's actually Count Antoine Hamilton or the Count de Gramont, whoever we decided. He's on the back bench, and eagle-eyed viewers will spot the Regency Gent flying around as well somewhere. So this is about that period where I was working on these paintings. Okay, so that's filled, and let that dry now a little bit. So it's been cleaned, edges sanded down. I will go and get the other half now and repeat. So this half has the vinyl lettering on that has done remarkably well. It's stayed on there for the best part of 40 odd years, but you can see there that it is flaking off. So this side will have the same process applied to it as the other one. Using my trusty wheels to get this into the studio. It's times like this when a studio assistant would be handy, but I am quite used to working on my own these days. And there are people in the mill if I do get stuck. They're not really heavy as such, these pieces. They're just cumbersome and awkward. But I'm a bit of a bugger for lifting things up that I shouldn't do, and invariably end up damaging my back or putting myself out of service for a while. So yeah, let's just have a look at this. So we've got that vinyl lettering on there. We've got some more holes to tackle. The framework is in about the same kind of condition. This lettering is peeling and coming off. So I'm going to show you what we will be doing with that. I've just got a delivery coming in, so let's see what's in there.
We have got brushes and package up lettering paint for this. So the next job is to trace around these vinyl letterings that are peeling off and sign right back in the lettering, so it's a bit more permanent and weatherproof, because as you can see here, it's not fared too well. So that's my next job, is to remove those letters and then write them back on.
So as you can see, they remove fairly easily. The glue or the adhesion method that was used originally, probably this was self-adhesive vinyl lettering, has badly deteriorated over time, and yeah, you can see there's bits left on the actual sign as well, but you can still see the original shape of the lettering. So what I have done with these is traced round the lettering so that it's easier for me to replace afterwards when I do the sign writing. But yeah, these come off quite easily. So what I will need to do though is remove that glue residue from the sign or the painting. So I'm just making sure that I have definitely got all the correct edges in of these letters before they come off forever. They are quite brittle as well. So once they're all off, I will do some tests to see what will remove that glue residue from there before I start painting. It almost seems a shame to take these off because they've been on for so long, but they have deteriorated. It's not worth saving them. And what I will put back on there, you won't be able to tell the difference from where it is on the building. So once this is 20 feet up in the air, you won't be able to tell whether it was vinyl lettering or sign written letters. And the sign writing will last for, oh God knows, 50, 60 years maybe, depending on the weather conditions. I'm surprised this lettering lasted as long as it did. It must be quite sheltered on the location of the building, or that exterior frame stopped anything dripping directly onto the lettering. So yeah, you can see all that glue residue there is going to have to be removed. You can see where it's trapped some of the dirt into the back of the letter as well. Looks quite cool actually, that looks like it's been spray painted. So yeah, I'm just making sure I've got all my markings on there for when I do start doing the sign writing. So the easy way for me to test the glue rather than go onto the sign itself is just do my tests on the back of the letters as well. So with it being an adhesive, it'll be a solvent based solution that I use, again starting with something fairly weak and increasing the strength to get the desired effect. You can see here that it's slowly removing the glue from the back of there. I think this is the second solution. The first one that I briefly showed you before was quite a bit stronger by the looks of it, but this is removing. You can see that it's actually getting down to the actual white of the letter. So there you go, it just takes a bit of time. So once I've got this solution and then I'm happy with the mixture, I will then transfer and start cleaning the glue residue off the actual painting itself. So as I apply that solution, I'm just tentatively checking to make sure that it isn't lifting anything. It's quite stubborn, so what you'll see me doing is kind of softening areas, allowing the solvent to do its work, and then coming back to clean and remove the residue. So I'll be applying solvent to one area, let it soften that glue, and I'll come back to a previously softened area, and you can see there that it is removing slowly from that left hand side. So again, it's going to be a little bit of a laborious process this, but one that does need doing. So there you can see now that the majority of that glue has moved from the left, and I'll just keep working my way around and softening the rest of it. And my pencil lines are staying intact too for when I do my sign writing later.
Okay guys, I think we will leave that episode there for this week. As you can see, there's still plenty to do on this one. I really enjoyed working on this picture and doing the history of it and thinking about how iconic it is. It's such it's an honour to be able to work on something that's so iconic in Manchester's history at a key point in Manchester and the history of the UK. I mean, those riots in the 80s, it's an uprising. You know, it's like what we hear about with Cromwell or back in the 17th century, like the peasants' uprising. It's people not standing for what's been given to them, and what came out of that is this boxing club and this great beacon of, I don't know, light for young people to hold on to something and have something to live for. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Come back next week where we will carry on removing the letters, and I've got the sign writing to go in there, and then we'll start putting everything back together. Weather report, bright today, bright and cold. But yeah, thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe. Please share, leave a comment. I do read through them all. Head over to Patreon if you want some more exclusive content. And thank you to all my supporters. And yeah, have a nice weekend. I'll see you all soon. Cheers, guys. Bye.